When is the time to talk about it? After Sandy Hook, when 26 lives were took, politicians shook their heads and said we shouldn't talk about it. Our nation grieved. They gave their prayers and sent their tweets, but they didn't want to talk about it. We can't politicize this, they said. 20 kids are dead. We have to lay them to rest before we talk about it. Like it was honoring their deaths more to once again ignore the very reasons, but we didn't want to talk about it. And you could take the rhetoric and switch to tragedy. I couldn't tell the difference, which is obvious insanity, but I was just as culpable for what I didn't do or say, because honestly, it hurt too much. I didn't want to talk about it.
This poem is called Gun Violence, It's Time to Talk About It. It was written by an inspiring author who wrote it a year ago, wanted and didn't publish it until now, after the tragedy that happened in Las Vegas this year. Before anything else, let's talk about gun control. Let's let ourselves up with four different countries with tight gun control. Let's aim our focus to guns in homes. Before the trigger is pulled, let's look at some facts that involve gun violence. And before we add more ammunition, let's look into some tragedies. According to The Guardian, there are 4 countries that hold the tightest gun control laws. The UK, Japan, Australia, and Germany. In the UK, after 43-year-old Thomas Hamilton unloaded his guns on a children's staff at a primary school on May 13, 1996, there were petitions made from friends of the families that called a total ban of private ownership of handguns. After the politicians looked at it, they made a law banning any ownership on private ownerships on guns. As this chart shows, as before, how it increased before the law was added and after the law was created. Japan must be one of the closest countries with zero tolerance of guns, a policy that experts say that contributes to the low gun rates. If you want to own a gun in Japan, you must go through classes, pass a written test, and some tests. You also have to go through psychological exams to see if you're fit, and that deep background checks. But it's not just only you; it's your family also. This chart compares the 12 countries with gun homicides. U.S. being the highest, and Japan being the lowest. Australia's truth came on exactly 20 years ago, when there was a gun spree that killed 35 people. Prime Minister John Howard made a law that was called a gun law buyback of all guns, which melted down more than 60,500 guns. This chart is a little blurry, but it shows where the national firearm was introduced in 1996 and how many people died before and after. Germany is our last. Here's the thing about Germany. Germany is one of the highest head per guns in all the world, but their homicide rate is the lowest in all Europe. This is because of the new amended law, that gun law, that doesn't allow any more than one gun for the owners. And it also, in this law, it allows police officers to go into private owners' houses and do checks without any warning. If you own a gun, you have to have it safely with a security code or a key that only the owner must knows. Let's aim our focus to guns in homes. According to the Center of Injury, There are 1 million children that live in unlocked and unloaded guns. That is 1 out of 3 houses with children with guns. In 2014, 2,549 children ages from 0 to 19 died from gunshots. An additional 356 were injured. Among the majority, children who die from unintentional gunshots happen mostly when they're playing around with loaded guns without a parents being with them. People who report fire accidents are twice higher to commit homicide and 3 times the risk of committing suicide compared to those who don't have guns at home. Before we pull the trigger, let's look at some facts. This map shows how many incidents have happened in 2017 between January 1st and October 2017. According to gun violence activists, the total incidents were 49,105. The number of injuries, 12,271. Deaths. Injuries were 25,074. Children injured or killed were from ages 0 to 11 were 571. Teens that died from killed or injured from 12 to 17 were 2,567. And mass shootings were 283. Before we add more ammunition, let's look into some gun-related tragedies. In 2012, in Miami Gardens in Florida, Megan was going to drop off someone. While driving, her car was shot at, and she had to lay on top of a toddler who was in her back seat to protect her from getting hurt. She was hit in the pelvis by an AK-47, and she has been limp since then. There was another tragedy in 2012 in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where there was a celebration going in a temple when a white supremacist and a Army veteran opened fire in the temple, killing 6 and injuring 4. The most recent one was in Las Vegas of this year, on October 1st, 2017, when a gunman opened fire at Route 91 on a Harvest Musical Festival, killing 85 people and injuring 546. We loaded ourselves up with countries with tight gun control. We aimed our focus to guns in homes. Before the trigger was pulled, we looked into some gun facts about gun violence. And lastly, before more ammunition was added, we looked into some gun-related tragedies. It is in our hands to stop blood from spilling on the streets, from preventing innocent people who don't have no right to die in this way. It is in our hands to bring peace at last, or as Albert Einstein said himself, end quote, "The world is a dangerous place to live in, not because of the people who are evil, but because of the people who don't do anything about it." Thank you.